Okay, so here we go. I'm Christine Benitez. I'm the principal of Crescent Valley High School. But for tonight and for this next month, on these special nights, I am just the host for these events. We are partnering with our Glendale Library and Glendale Unified and Glendale Latinos Association to bring you the Hispanic Heritage Month speaker series. And this year's theme is Latinos Driving Prosperity, Power, and Progress in America. And we have 6 speakers for the next 4 weeks for you. One very special person tonight, and then 5 more in the next coming weeks, who are going to help us know and understand what it means to be Latino, Latina now in America, and also some amazing role models for all of us. So at this point in time, I'll let our translator speak.
Muy buenas tardes, familias. Acompáñenos, por favor, en nuestra 4ª serie anual de oradores. En las siguientes 5 semanas tendremos 5 diferentes renombrados profesionales latinos. El tema de este año será Latinos, lograr la prosperidad, el poder y el progreso en América. A los padres de familia y a sus estudiantes de 5º al 12 grado los invitamos a participar en estos 5 webinarios para aprender y aumentar el conocimiento de la herencia hispana. Esta noche la oradora será la juez Debra Gonzales. Si necesitan escuchar en español, por favor haga clic en el icono de
Okay, thank you so much. And now, as a special welcome, we have our Interim Superintendent, Dr. Darnica Watson.
Oh, good afternoon, and I'm smiling at that side. Look to see my picture. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. It's actually my first meeting with for Adelante Latinos, and I'm more than honored to be there. Thank you, Mrs. Benitez, for hosting this series. I'm looking forward to hearing and enjoying everything that's going to be presented tonight. I look forward to meeting any of the individuals that are on here. Thank you for this series. It's very important. Thank you for the celebration, and I look forward to a good time. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. And then we also have our board president, Jennifer Freeman, joining us tonight with a special welcome.
Hi, good evening, and just wanted to welcome everybody here. The speaker series, I think, has become really one of the highlights of what we can do for Hispanic Heritage Month to really help our students see in themselves the possibilities and really be inspired by all of the incredible people that we have in our very own community. So thank you for participating. I look forward to hearing what our speakers have to share with us and to seeing students continue to be inspired and to see themselves in their schools and communities.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. And as we've all said, we're here as part of National Hispanic Heritage Month, which goes from September 15th to October 15th. And the reason is because so many of our Latino countries celebrate their Independence Days between those 2 dates. I believe Mexico's was the 16th. And I don't want to get them wrong, but I think it was Guatemala. There's like 4 of them on the 15th. And so we continue to celebrate all of those Independence Days within the next 30 days. Last year, and then, I skipped this slide. Last year, Glendale Latinos Association and Adelante Latinos got a special proclamation from the city of Glendale, which we're also going to be getting this year too, recognizing, it's okay, Mr. Gonzales or Mr. Gallimore, you don't have this slide. Recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month, and so we're going to be doing that again this year. So it was a very awesome proclamation, and I'll just read a little bit of it. Whereas the city of Glendale traces its history back to its days as a Spanish settlement, once belonging to the Verdugo family and part of the colonial New Spain, a land of indigenous and multiracial people, a 36,000-acre area known as Rancho San Rafael that included much of what later became Glendale, Burbank, Montrose, Eagle Rock, La Crescenta, Glassell Park, and Sunland, Tujunga. When the city of Glendale first came into existence in 1876, it was called Verdugo. And then it goes on and on and on and on and on. But they recognize National Hispanic Heritage Month. So we're very proud of that, and we look forward to doing that again this year. If you want to become a part of Adelante Latinos or Glendale Latino Association, we have all of that information here. We have our email, our website, our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter handle, our YouTube account. All of these videos can be viewed on YouTube later on once they finish rendering. So on the flyer that we have, it initially is the Zoom link, and then later it becomes the YouTube link. So please know that these will all be available later for your viewing. And this is our lineup this year. So we have Judge Debra L. Gonzales this evening. We have Emma Gonzales this Thursday. Next week, we have Dr. Monica Oviedo. October 2nd, we have someone, but they haven't confirmed, so we're just waiting. October 4th, we have our own Dr. Oscar Macias. And October 11th, the Glendale Police Department Police Chief Manuel Cid. So we are very, as you can tell, all of these people are from our community. Many of them are family members of people who either work or go to school here at in Glendale Unified. I talk about CV a lot, so I apologize for that, in Glendale Unified. So we're very excited that we've kept it very close. Some special thank yous tonight to all of our speakers and those who introduced us to our speakers, like Jenny Quinones-Skinner, Tigran Tobazikian, Natalia Lewis, Marisol Chinello, AJ Oviedo, Marissa Rose Gonzalez, Javier Guzman, Glendale Library, Glendale Latinos Association, Adelante Latinos, Francesca Silva and Miguel Gonzalez, who are the co-chairs, Brenda Besserell, who's over fundraising, Dr. Darnika Watson, and all GUSD does to allow us to continue this event. And then our student moderators, Savannah Llanos and Mateo White. We're very excited to have student moderators, Savannah Llanos, Savannah, tonight. So we're very excited to have them. And then you don't have to look at my face all night either. Okay, so this is who we are. My name is Christine Benitez. Savannah and Mateo are going to join us. And none of this would happen without Dr. Bill Estrada Gallimore, who's running the behind the scenes. And he's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Gallimore. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Savannah, who's in the room, so she can introduce you to our speaker tonight. So Savannah, if you want to go ahead and read her biography, that would be great.
Of course. Judge Debra Gonzales was born and raised in a rural community south of Fresno, California. She is the youngest of 12 children and grew up working alongside her family in the grape vineyards. Debra graduated from summa cum laude from the California State University, Fresno, and received her Bachelor's of Science degree in criminology. She then attended the University of California, Berkeley School of Law, where she received her Juris Doctorate. Debra began her career as the trial attorney of the Solicitor's Office in the U.S. Department of Labor in San Francisco before transitioning to the prosecutor for the criminal division of the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. She then transferred to the city division and joined the police litigation unit. Shortly after, she was selected to join the Public Safety General Counsel and provided legal advice to many public safety divisions in the city of LA. In 2022, Debra was elected to the judicial position of LA Superior Court Commissioner. She is currently assigned to the Juvenile Division Dependency Court in Lancaster and presidences over the filed by LA County Department of Children and Family Services concerning the health and safety of children.
Thank you, Savannah. Okay, Judge Debra Gonzales, please teach us.
Good evening to everyone. First of all, let me explain that I'm not a judge, even though that is what my label there on Zoom says. I am a commissioner. And so many of you will probably ask, well, what's the difference between a commissioner and a judge? So judges are either appointed by the governor or they are elected. Many of the parents will remember that on their ballots, many times they have to vote for judges for the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Commissioners, on the other hand, are elected by sitting judges. And there's an application process, and then you're interviewed, and then you are elected. So I am a commissioner. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that. Also, however, I should explain that I'm doing exactly the same work as a judge. But commissioners can sit in various assignments. My assignment happens to be independency. So if we can go to the next slide, I will start with my family background, which is that I feel like I'm part of or one of many Latinos that has the quintessential immigrant story, in the sense that my parents both immigrated to the United States from Mexico, looking for more opportunities and a better life for themselves. And then they met and they married and they had 12 kids. As you can see there, the family portrait, 6 boys and 6 girls. This photo was taken about 1969. I remember it well. I was a freshman in high school, and we thought it was important to capture the entire family. I was born and raised in Fresno, as the introduction indicated, but out in the country, out in the rural parts of Fresno County, in a place called Easton, but we lovingly refer to it as El Rancho. And my family began as farm workers, picking cotton and grapes and various fruits all over the Central Valley, sometimes traveling many hours to get to the farms where they worked. My father did later on get a job in a box factory in Fresno, but my mother and older siblings continued to work in the fields, and they were fortunate enough to save up enough money to buy a small 20-acre farm with great vineyards. And then the entire family began working on our family farm. And I remember growing up, there was really year-round work, but especially in the fall, starting around August was when the harvest would begin, by picking the grapes and putting them out on paper trays to dry into raisins, rolling them up into bundles, and eventually packing them in these big wooden boxes to be taken to the raisin companies to be sold and processed. And the reason I bring this up is I remember when once school started, which for us normally was at the beginning of September, the harvest was still going on. And so we would go to school, and then we would come home, immediately change into our work clothes, go out, work until the sun went down, and then have to come back and, of course, do your homework and get ready for the next school day. But it was a time that I think we all learned the benefit of hard work, and I think that has served me well throughout my life. Next slide. This is just a couple of photos. The one on the left there is me with my sister-in-law picking tomatoes. I'm sure this must have been during the summer. And on the right is my parents, and who I admire very much. they taught me the very important lesson, not only of hard work, but also in getting a good education. Although, both my mother and father, I admire them very much. But my mother, when I start to feel sorry for myself about how many cases I have and how hard I'm working, I just think back to my mother and the hard life that she had and how hard she worked for the family. And this was before all the conveniences that we now have. And she worked down the fields, she raised her kids, she prepared the family meals, and I just admire her very, very much. And I aspire to be as good of a mother to my daughter as my mother was to all of our family. Next slide. So my elementary and high school years, what I remember, and I hope that all of you can also enjoy this kind of diversity. I was very fortunate in that our elementary and high schools were very diverse ethnically. We had white students, which were Italian, Armenian, German, Mexican Americans, which was the common phrase or a title, I guess, for those of us in those days, Mexican Americans. Later it became Chicano in I think the 60s and early 70s. African Americans and Asian Americans, primarily Japanese, because they also had farms out in the rural areas. But I say that it was a benefit. I am very, very grateful that I grew up with such a diverse student body. And I hope that all of you in GUSD also enjoy that kind of diversity. I then went to Fresno State. And what I'd like to say about that is I ended up going to Fresno State because it really was really the only thought in my mind about going to college, partly because my mother was very protective, even though I was already the 12th child. She was very protective and did not want me to go away from the Fresno area to go to college. And also, I would say because, truthfully, I didn't have anyone who talked to me about the possibility of going anywhere else but Fresno State. In fact, I remember in high school, it was probably my junior year, where my school counselor, instead of encouraging me to go to college, even though I was doing very well in all of my college prep courses, the school counselor instead encouraging me to go to business school and not go to college. And I'm sure that many Latinos, at least in my generation, have similar stories, and it's unfortunate. But somehow I disregarded that advice and decided to apply to college and go to college. So I ended up at Fresno State. Eventually I became a criminology major. And as a criminology major, I was required to take some law classes, criminal procedure, criminal law, and a business law class. And independent of each other, my two law professors encouraged me to go to law school. There was something about the way I approached those classes that they both thought that I could succeed in law school, and they encouraged me to consider it. And I really enjoyed those courses. I enjoyed them because they were intellectually stimulating and challenging, but yet I didn't know any lawyers, and it was certainly not a thought that had crossed my mind. But thankfully, they planted that seed. I did, in fact, go to law school at UC Berkeley. And I say that that was the best decision that I ever made, because not only did I end up at a preeminent law school, which has really benefited me throughout my career, but during the recruitment process, I had applied to, I think, 5 or 6 schools in Northern California. And one of them was UC Davis, which is also a very good law school. But UC Davis is very rural. And one of the law students at UC Berkeley encouraged me to go to UC Berkeley and do something different. She said, if you go to UC Davis, that's going to be a lot like Fresno. If you come to UC Berkeley, it's going to be a very, very different experience. And she was so right. We ended up being lifelong friends. And that was the best advice. I'm so glad I followed it. I had a wonderful experience at UC Berkeley, both in the Bay Area and the law school itself. Next slide. So then, before we go on to my legal career, this is just a couple of photos of my graduation, my law school graduation on the left, two of my sisters who came to celebrate the special day, and my mother, who I was so happy was able to still be there to see her youngest daughter become a law school graduate. I hadn't passed the bar yet, but a law school graduate. Unfortunately, by this time, my father had passed away, so he was not able to be there. But my mother, I think, was very, very proud. So now we can go to the next slide, which is the beginning of my legal career. And I started at the U.S. Department of Labor in 1980 after I took the bar exam. And the reason I went there was because I wanted to get trial experience. And the U.S. Department of Labor did federal court trials and also administrative hearings that are like mini trials in administrative courts. And as a lawyer at the U.S. Department of Labor, I enforced the minimum wage and overtime and safety laws and many, many other laws that have to do with laborers. I started in San Francisco, and then they also had a Los Angeles office, and they needed an attorney. So I came to Los Angeles in 1982 and have been in Los Angeles ever since. But while I was at the Department of Labor, I worked on a case with a Los Angeles city attorney. We were co-counsel on a case, and he encouraged me to apply to the city attorney's office that was hiring at the time. And at first I hesitated because I thought, at least I learned when I learned about the application process that at that time they started everyone in the office in the criminal branch as a prosecutor. And I hesitated because I had always seen myself as a defense attorney, perhaps a public defender, either in the state courts or in the federal courts. I had done an internship with the Federal Public Defender's Office when I was in law school. So I did not see myself as a prosecutor, but the more I looked into it and the more I talked to people, I realized that I could also be effective for my Latino community as a prosecutor, because prosecutors make decisions about what cases are filed, if a case is filed, what the charges are, and sentencing recommendations. So they do play an important role in the criminal justice system. And I also realize that many of our members of our Latino community are also victims of crime. And so I felt that I could also serve the Latino community in that way. About 8 or so years into my career at the city attorney's office, I thought about my career path. And I knew at that time that eventually I might want to become a bench officer. So I thought I should go back and get some more civil litigation experience. So I transferred to the civil branch in the city attorney's office, and I did civil litigation for a few years, representing the Los Angeles Police Department. Again, sometimes people might say, oh wow, she's representing the police department. But again, I felt that it was important for Latinos and Latinas and people of color to be in those positions as well. to ensure fairness in the process, but also hopefully to make change, positive change in the public safety agencies. And so about 4 years after being in the litigation unit, I went over, transferred to being general counsel to the police department, the fire department, and the emergency management department. And like I said, I felt that was an important role also to be able to work on policies of those departments, again, to ensure fairness to our community, to be involved in police reform. And so I did that until the end of my career with the city attorney's office in November of 2020. Slide. So I retired from the city attorney's office in November of 2020. But before I retired, I had actually applied for a commissioner position with the Superior Court. And that process took a while, as you all will remember. That was during COVID. And so everything was moving a little bit slower. And but eventually, I went through the application process and the interview process, and I was on the list to be elected. And in August of 2022, that opportunity came to me. Many of my friends said, "But you're retired. Why are you going back to work? Are you sure you want to go back to work?" And so I do want to, because I've always thought that I have something to offer as a judicial officer, and I'm going to accept the position. So I did. I was assigned to the Juvenile Dependency Court in Lancaster, which is where I am still today. It was a surprise to me because I had never practiced dependency, so I did not know what dependency was about at all. But once I realized that it was about protecting children, I felt this is important work. And even though it's going to be a real challenge for me to learn this area of the law, I am up to the challenge. I can do this. And so I've been learning for the last year this whole area of dependency. Many of the cases involve parents' substance abuse or domestic violence or mental health issues. So they're very, very heavy cases, I would say, in the sense that it's hard for me because I see these families that are struggling. But the Department of Children and Family Services investigates, and if the department determines that a child's physical safety or health is in danger due to the parent's conduct or neglect, they will file the case, and then it comes to my court. The good thing is that I see in dependency is the department is represented, the minors, the children are represented, they have their own attorneys. The parents, both the mother and the father, are represented. So I, as the bench officer, hear from all of the parties and then try to make the decision, the best decision that I can for these families. The goal of the court and the department and all of the attorneys involved in the process is to keep families together as much as possible by providing services to the parents and to the children. But if for some reason family reunification cannot be achieved, then the goal is to provide a safe home for the children, either through adoption or legal guardianship or other placement. And also I want to note that several years ago, the legislature established a program which I think is so important for youth that are dependents. That is, they have been taken away from their parents for various reasons, but they are getting services. And when they turn 18, they can become what is called a non-minor dependent, which means they can elect to stay under the supervision of the court. They have requirements. They either have to be working, either part-time at least, or they're pursuing their education. But the nice thing about it is they can continue to receive services and assistance from the county. Next slide. So, why should any of you consider a legal career? And I think I heard in the introduction that one of the word that jumped out at me about this year's themes was power. And I think that one of the reasons I would encourage all of you to at least consider a legal career is because you can affect change. You have the power to affect change. Either as a lawyer, you're in a unique position to affect change by either working on a case that changes the law, for example, in the area of educational rights, or employment rights, if that's your interest, environmental rights. I know, climate change is obviously a big concern, so environmental law has become very important. Civil rights, just many, many different ways that lawyers can effect change in our society. Or another way that people with a law degree make change is by becoming legislators, whether that be in the state legislature or in the federal legislature, either Congress or in the Senate or the House of Representatives. Or another example is in the corporate boardroom. We need to have Latinos in every area of society, and the corporate boardroom is where important business decisions are made, and we need Latinos there as well. Essentially, we need Latinos to be at at all of the tables in our society. The other thing is that you can help individual people and families. Obviously somebody who has a criminal case, if you become a criminal defense attorney, you are ensuring that that person gets a fair trial. If you're a prosecutor, as I was, like I said, you're ensuring that the system is treating people fairly. Same thing with labor lawyers or environmental lawyers. You're enforcing the rights of individuals and families. The requirements to become a lawyer are to get a 4-year college degree, to take the law school admissions test, which would give you a score, which the law schools will then look at to see if they think that you can succeed in law school. Then you have to get through 3 years of law school, and then you have to take the bar exam. But all of it is well worth it. Is there one more slide with some statistics, I think? Yes, there we go. So the reason I'm encouraging all of you to at least consider a legal career is there are not enough Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx, whatever the term is that you like to use. As you'll see in that first bullet point, only 5.8% of lawyers in 2022 were Hispanic or Latino, whereas at least at that time they were calculating the U.S. population of Hispanics and Latinos to be 18.5%. So compare that to Asian American lawyers who are almost at parity with their population size. So the population of Asian Americans is 5.9%, and the Asian American lawyers is 5.5%, so very close. We have a long way to go. We as Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx have a long way to go. In 2022, now looking at California, Hispanics and Latinos are 36% of California's population. I think now we're closer to 40%, and only 6% of all California licensed attorneys. Again, huge disparity there. Latinas, I'm speaking to the women out there. 38% of lawyers in the U.S. are women, but Latinas only make up about 2%. I think we have maybe one more slide. Yes, there we go. Now we're looking at the judiciary. Federal judges, 75.9% are white. Only 7.7% of federal judges are Hispanic or Latino. Again, looking to California, presently about 40% of California's population is Latinx, and only 8 Latinx judges throughout all the California courts of appeal, which represents only 7.9% on the appellate bench. And in the trial courts, especially even LA County, where we have the highest population of Latinos, only 16% are judges or judicial officers, and only 8.8% of Orange County and only 14% of San Diego County are Latinx. So when you look at both trial and appellate judges and justices, 211 Latinx judicial officers are representing 16 million Latino Californians. So as you can see, we have a long way to go. I hope that many of you will consider a legal career. I myself have found it to be a very rewarding career. And then our last slide, I think, is to inspire you even further. These are two of my, I'm inspired so much by them. Sonia Sotomayor, who was nominated by President Obama in 2009 and has been serving on the United States Supreme Court. And many of you, I'm sure, have heard of her. And also, more recently, our California Supreme Court Chief Justice, Patricia Guerrero, who is our current Chief Justice. And so I think that's the end of our slides. Am I right? Okay. So I just want to encourage all of you, because I have enjoyed a wonderful legal career. I hope that many of you will consider it. And I do also want to say that I know that for many of you, you would say, when I talked about the requirements, you said, oh my goodness, a 4-year college degree, then taking the law school admission test, then getting into law school, then figuring out how to pay for law school, and then the bar exam. It is a lot, but there is help out there. There's financial aid. There's a lot of Latino organizations and other organizations that provide scholarships. And I am happy to speak with anyone who would like more information about pursuing a legal career. So that's what I have.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Mateo or Savannah, do you want to, it looks like we have about 27 questions. Hopefully you've been looking through them, and we can kind of group ones together that go together so that we don't have to repeat questions if they're asked twice. So if you want to go ahead and ask our questions, that'd be great.
Of course, if Mateo's, doesn't look like Mateo's getting involved, so
Sounds like some technical difficulties there.
Mateo, I think you're having some technical difficulties. Mr. Gallimore, can you mute him for right now? Okay, well, Mateo, we'll figure out what's going on. Mr. Gelmore will try to help you. Okay, Savannah.
Okay, let's go with the Q&A. The first question that's popped up is, has your family ever owned a small fruit market for a period of time from the fruits that you've collected?
I'm sorry, did my family ever what?
Own a small fruit market for a period of time from the
fruit market. No, the farm that we had, which was really, really very small in comparison to the farms out in that area. It was a very, very small family farm, but we only turned the grapes into raisins, which were then sold to raisin companies such as Sun-Maid and other companies that then sold the raisins to, maybe bakeries or different things. So no, we never had like a fruit market or anything like that.
Okay. Next question is, can you point to an inspiration that you had as a child, somebody that inspired you and that motivated you to get as far as you got?
I remember distinctly one of my older brothers who had started college, and he actually ended up being an educator and ultimately a principal of a middle school, I want to say. But I remember I was very young, and he ordered books that would come to me, like, I don't remember, maybe once a month, because he recognized that it was very important for me to read and to open up my world through books. And I will always remember that as him, an older sibling, being concerned about his young sister understanding the importance of education. And obviously, both of my parents also always reminded all of us of how important education was. My mother, I think, only went to like 4th grade, and my father also, I think maybe 8th grade. So both of them knew that it was important for all of their children to receive a good education. So I would say both my parents and my brothers and other siblings focusing on the importance of education.
Next question is there something specific that you would change about your community when you were growing up?
Is there something specific that I would change about my community?
Yes.
Growing up? You know what? I had a great childhood, and because as I look back, like I said earlier, I learned the importance of hard work. I learned the importance of education. I learned the importance of family. And I learned the importance of working with all different kinds of people. And those have really, really served me well throughout my lifetime. And I want to say that I know maybe many of the young students in GUSD, they might not be working out in the fields, but they might be working at a fast food restaurant, or they might be working at some other place to help their family with their income, because I know that families are struggling right now. And a lot of times the young people, if they can get jobs, are helping their families. So I know many of you probably have the same experience that I had, where you had to go and work and then come home and do your homework. But they're both important. So yeah, I don't think there's anything I would really change.
Related to the family question, somebody asked, what was it like growing up with 11 siblings, and if it had any impact on who you are today?
Yes, I would say it definitely had an impact. So one thing that I should explain is because there were 12 of us, some of my older brothers and sisters were already married and had kids of their own by the time I was born. So we didn't have all 12 of us in the family at one time. And it's kind of strange because a lot of times I have to explain to people that I have nephews and nieces that are older than me. But that's because there was such a large age difference between me and some of my older siblings. But the other thing is the importance of family. My parents did an amazing job at making sure that we all knew that all of the family members were important and that it was important for all of us to take care of each other. And so I consider myself very, very fortunate in having that kind of upbringing, if you will.
The next question is, how do you think the work of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta has helped you in your career and helped shape your perspective?
Oh, I am so grateful to Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta for all of the important work that they did, helping farm laborers. And I am a huge supporter of the California Rural Legal Assistance organization because when I was in law school, I learned about their existence and the important work that they do, and learned about Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. And I sort of remember as a child, that was going. Now that didn't really affect us because we were such a small farm that we did our own labor. We weren't, these big farm labor contractors that, but I do recognize the important work of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. I respect them tremendously. And to this day, and I think I've passed that along to my daughter, who she realizes that this is her heritage too, and that even though we're not out there in the fields working, it's important to support those who are and who put food on our table. So.
A very popular question is, what helped you get into criminology? What helped you learn about the field? What helped you get interested?
So it's interesting. When I first enrolled at Fresno State, I started out as I think like either sociology or social welfare, because I was thinking I might want to be like a social worker. And it's funny that now I'm working in dependency and I'm seeing the very, very hard work that these social workers do every day. And I so much admire their work. But somewhere along the line, I must have taken some criminology courses and I found them to be very interesting. And so that's how I ended up going into criminology. I was a corrections option, which meant I was looking at maybe being like a probation officer or a parole officer, working with those that had gone through the criminal justice system to help them get back into society and be productive members of society. That was my goal. But then I got waylaid and I ended up in the legal field. But hopefully, again, I've been able to help in the different roles I've served in the criminal justice system.
Continuing into that, somebody asked, did you always see yourself being a Superior Court Commissioner, or was that something that just happened? Did you expect it to happen? Was it a surprise?
Well, I always had it as a desire. to be a judicial officer. And so what I'm surprised at is how long it took me to actually do it. And part of it is because I really was enjoying my work at the city attorney's office. I had really interesting cases that I worked on, really interesting issues. I had a great group of lawyers that I worked with every day. And so even though I always felt like I wanted to be a judicial officer, I also was enjoying what I was doing. So now it's my second career.
Leading into that, the next question was, if you wouldn't have gone into criminology or a Superior Court Commissioner, what would have been your next choice of work?
Well, I think I probably would have been doing something in social welfare, like a social worker, or a, if I had gone down the criminology. If I hadn't gone down criminology, I would say probably social work, because I guess there's always been part of me that felt like I wanted to help people. And I remember very distinctly, it was in one of my criminal law classes, doing a report on child abuse and being very moved by it, but very, I just thought, wow, these poor children need to be protected. And so I think if I hadn't gone down the legal path, I think it would have been something in social work.
Somebody asked, is there any major differences between a commissioner and a judge? Because you said earlier that they're very, very similar, but in your personal opinion, do you think there are any major?
Very, very few things that I cannot do as a commissioner. Like, for example, when there are, I cannot hold contempt hearings. So there are certain proceedings that I'm not allowed to perform, but very rarely does that happen. Right now, and for a lot of commissioners, they do exactly what a judge does. So
somebody else asked if you think that the time and commitment and work you put in was worth it to get to where you are today.
Absolutely. Like I said, I have really, really enjoyed my legal career. It has been very demanding at times, just as my current assignment is very demanding, but the rewards are also there. The reward of feeling like you are serving a purpose, and helping people and helping society. So yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Somebody else asked, who was your main guide or mentor through your secondary and high school? And did any of your other siblings go to college, graduate college? What was their level of education like?
Most of my siblings only graduated from high school. Actually, some of the older ones were not fortunate enough to graduate from high school. They left early to help the family by getting jobs. One of my brothers, the one who got me the subscription for books when I was a young child, he did get a college degree and I believe a master's, and then became, like I said, an educator and then a school principal. Everyone else went into different areas. A couple of my sisters went to business school and had very successful careers in either in city government in Fresno or their own business. But thankfully, our entire family has been very, very fortunate. Even those who were not able to graduate from high school, they were able to succeed in farming, actually, in the Fresno area.
Somebody else asked if you think it's important for more Latinos and Latinas to take a position of power, whether it be a Superior Court Commissioner, a judge, Supreme Court, or even president.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need a Latino president. We need a Latina president. We need more Latinos and Latinas as lawyers, as I said earlier, and as judicial officers. Absolutely. Both on the state level and on the federal bench as well. Absolutely.
I just heard that Mexico is ready to elect their first female president because both candidates are female.
Oh my goodness. See?
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's our goal. Absolutely.
Female.
Let's see.
I think we have time for maybe one more, Savannah.
Okay, then let me pick a good one.
Can I try it? Or can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mateo. You can pick one.
Okay, great. What do you think is your greatest contribution to the community?
Oh, wow. My greatest contribution. You know, I would say just both in my career at the city attorney's office and now on the bench is representing the Latino community, showing everyone, look, I'm here, we're here, we are important, and we deserve a place at the table. So I hope that when families come into court, they see my nameplate that says Gonzales, and they, even though I cannot speak Spanish, on the record, because we have interpreters that do that. When I do adoptions, I can speak a little bit of Spanish to the adoptive parents if they're Spanish speaking only. And I hope that I can make the Latino community more comfortable in knowing that they have representatives in the judiciary that care about them and that they have a right to have services as well and representation. So, and before, I know we're running out of time, but I neglected at the end of my PowerPoint to give a shout out to my daughter, Marisa Rose Gonzales, who is a graduate of CV and a school psychologist there. We have been very, very fortunate to be at CV and all the Glendale schools, and I hope that all the GUSD students can enjoy the same success that my daughter has.
Well, and thank you for that. And you spoke so eloquently about representation, and really that's what the speaker series is about, is, Latinos are at the table, they should be at the table, and we don't hear about it all the time. We don't celebrate it. And so we're very excited to have you with us tonight, and I'm so appreciative of your time. And thank you for letting us hire your daughter. She's amazing as well. So I do have a couple slides here I want to share. We have our next Adelante Latinos event coming up. It's actually this week at Los Gringos Locos in La Cañada from 5 to 8. And then we have a fundraiser coming up. We'll get some more information to you next time about when that is at Blaze. But I also want to share with you, Glendale Public Library is celebrating Dia de los Muertos November 4th. Adelante Latinos will have a table. And if you're a part of a club and you want to do an ofrenda, you're welcome to do so. Just focus on, there should be more information coming about that and how to do that. And then the Tournament of Roses has a Dia de los Muertos, a celebration of art, where you can sign up to do a competition, an art competition. There's all kinds of things you can do: paintings, drawings, calavera, ofrendas, Katrina, digital art, other visual arts. It's not due to October 13th, but there are links there, so please look into that. And then finally, there's a link here. This is not a very fancy slide. I just added this in. But the city of Los Angeles has amazing events this whole next month. And if we can, I can't click on that link, but if you click on that link, it takes you to the website where there's all kinds of activities, and our very own Doña Dermashropian shared this with us. So please check out all of those activities to do on your weekends. And then lastly, I just want to say muchas gracias to Mrs. Gonzales, and thank you all for joining us tonight. And Judge, if you could stay on for just 1 minute, because I want to ask you one question, and then everybody else have a wonderful night, and we will see you this Thursday for our next speaker, who is a GUSD alum, and she is going to come back and share with you her experiences in college. So thank you all very much. Have a great night.